What if I told you that every decision you make is quietly leading you toward one of two pains? The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. There is no third option, no neutral ground, no escape route. You will either suffer now by saying no to comfort, yes to effort, yes to consistency, or you will suffer later by looking back at wasted time, missed chances, and the life you could have built. One pain builds your future, the other buries it. And the truth is brutal. Discipline feels hard in the moment, but regret lasts a lifetime. Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they choose temporary comfort over long-term power. So the real question is not, can you do it? The question is, which pain are you willing to live with? Because either way, pain is guaranteed. Easy choices are never truly easy. They are only disguised as comfort. For many men, the mind is constantly negotiating between discipline and instant relief, where the brain rewards shortcuts. With temporary dopamine while quietly borrowing from the future. From a psychological lens, what feels like taking it easy is often just avoiding discomfort that could build strength. Women observing this pattern often see something different. They notice how potential gets delayed, how promises shrink under pressure, and how consistency becomes the real measure of reliability rather than intention. The illusion of easy choices becomes more powerful when identity is tied to approval instead of purpose. Men are often pushed, sometimes silently, to appear strong, successful, and effortless, which creates a hidden pressure to avoid visible struggle. Meanwhile, women frequently evaluate not just words but patterns, reading discipline as security and inconsistency as risk. This gap between perception and action turns simple decisions into defining moments, where choosing comfort over effort silently reshapes how trust and respect are formed over time. What looks like an easy choice today quietly becomes tomorrow's weight, shaping direction, identity, and how others perceive consistency over time, especially when discipline is replaced by comfort repeatedly. Discipline begins where comfort ends, and in that moment, most men misread sacrifice as loss. Psychologically, the brain resists anything that demands delayed gratification, convincing itself that rest today is protection rather than avoidance. But what feels like giving something up is actually the process of building something stronger beneath the surface. From a man's internal perspective, discipline often feels like restriction-less freedom, less enjoyment, fewer immediate rewards. Yet that interpretation ignores the deeper exchange happening. Short-term comfort is being traded for long-term identity, strength, and self-respect. Women tend to interpret discipline differently when observing men over time. They rarely evaluate effort in isolated moments. Instead, they recognize consistency as emotional safety and unpredictability as instability. What a man sees as a temporary pause or break in discipline can be perceived externally as a pattern of unreliability. This difference in perception creates a gap where intention is not enough. Only repeated action communicates truth. Sacrifice and discipline is never about losing something permanent. It is about delaying gratification in exchange for control over outcomes that most people never fully claim, because the short-term discomfort feels louder than the long-term reward ever can. Comfort rarely announces itself as danger. It arrives quietly, dressed as relief. For many men, comfort becomes a psychological refuge where effort is postponed and ambition is negotiated away in small, almost invisible compromises. The brain learns to associate ease with safety, even when that ease slowly erodes confidence, discipline, and direction. What feels like taking it easy is often the beginning of becoming stagnant without realizing it. From the inside, comfort feels earned like rest after effort, but without effort, it becomes a cycle of avoidance disguised as balance. Women observing this pattern often notice something men miss in the moment. Consistency disappears long before failure becomes visible. They tend to evaluate not just potential, but momentum, and comfort disrupts that momentum more than any external obstacle. A man may feel stable within comfort, yet externally he begins to appear inconsistent, unfocused, or unavailable in his own growth. This creates a silent disconnect between how effort is perceived internally and how it is interpreted externally. Comfort feels cheap when chosen, but becomes costly when its long-term impact reveals missed opportunities, weakened discipline, and the slow erosion of self-respect that was never obvious in the moment it began. The future is not built in moments of motivation, but in moments of resistance. For many men, the real battle is not against external obstacles, but against the internal voice that negotiates every uncomfortable action with delay, excuses, or tomorrow. Psychology reveals that motivation is inconsistent by nature, while discipline is what carries action forward when emotion disappears. The moments a man does not feel like showing up are the exact moments where identity is being shaped, not by intention, but by repetition. Each decision to appear or disappear quietly becomes a vote for the kind of person he is becoming. From a woman's perspective, these unseen moments often matter more than grand declarations of ambition. They notice patterns, whether a man shows up when it is inconvenient, whether his effort remains steady when recognition is absent, whether his words survive the pressure of fatigue. What may feel like a single skipped action internally can be perceived externally as a break in reliability. Over time, consistency becomes the silent language through which trust is formed or weakened. The most defining progress is never built when energy is high and everything feels aligned, but in the quiet resistance of showing up when nothing inside feels like it should matter. Regret is rarely loud in the beginning. It does not arrive with chaos or urgency, but with silence that slowly grows heavier over time. For many men, psychology makes regret difficult to recognize early because the mind is trained to justify avoidance in the present moment. It says later, tomorrow, or when the time is right, while quietly delaying the very actions that could have changed everything. In the moment, nothing feels broken, but years later, the absence of discipline begins to speak louder than any mistake ever did. From a woman's perspective, regret is often visible long before it is acknowledged. Patterns of inconsistency, unfulfilled potential, and repeated hesitation are read not as isolated events, but as a direction. While a man may rationalize missed opportunities as temporary setbacks, external perception often records them as character traits. What feels like a small delay internally becomes, over time, a visible gap between who he could have become and who he is becoming. Regret whispers through memory, through comparisons, through quiet reflections and moments of stillness where no distraction is strong enough to silence it. It does not demand attention like failure, as instead it lingers in the background, shaping confidence, decisions, and self-perception year after year without ever needing to raise its voice. The moment a man makes a choice between discipline and avoidance, he is not just selecting an action, he is quietly shaping the direction of his entire life. Psychology shows that humans are wired to escape discomfort, but growth only exists on the side of controlled pain. For many men, this becomes the silent crossroads where identity is either strengthened or slowly diluted. Discipline demands repetition, patience, and discomfort in the present, while avoidance offers immediate relief at the cost of future strength. In that split-second decision, destiny begins to take form long before results ever appear. From a woman's perspective, this choice is rarely invisible over time. It is not the single decision that defines perception, but the accumulation of those choices. Reliability, ambition, and emotional stability are often judged through patterns of behavior, not promises. When a man consistently chooses short-term ease, he is more likely to experience a sense of security and comfort. It communicates something deeper than laziness that signals the kind of future he is likely to build or fail to build. When he consistently chooses discipline, even when no one is watching, it communicates strength that words cannot replace. Pain is inevitable in both paths, but it is not equal in outcome. One version of pain builds capacity, resilience, and respect, while the other quietly compounds into regret, missed potential, and internal frustration that grows heavier with time. The defining moment is never about avoiding pain altogether, but about deciding which version of pain is worth carrying forward into the identity being built every day.